Welcome, my friends, to the Full Experience. This series tries to see if we can get the entire flavor of a television show by watching just 4 of its episodes. The first, the ultimate, the highest ranked, the lowest ranked, and the last episode. We are watching Moonlighting, and today we are going to talk about the highest ranked episode, the ultimate episode, episode 4 of season 2, The Dream Sequence Always Rings Twice, which first aired October 15th, 1985. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey man, look, I don't want to throw shade at you guys, but I question your commitment to the full experience because of the 3 of us, I am the only one who bothered to watch the entire episode in question, and I did it 35 years ago. And you guys are just now getting around to it, kind of phoned it in.
You didn't watch the episode all the way.
Oh, okay, all right. I ran out of time,
but you have watched it and done the whole thing.
No, so in order, my experience was first of all, I can't believe I didn't pick up on the title, but I had forgotten about the dream conceit. Can we just talk about this opening with Orson Welles?
So I see the slate come up in memory of Orson Welles, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. I know it's film noir. And then I pause, I look it up. I'm like, oh, Orson Welles died October 10th. So 5 days before this aired. So they obviously didn't know he was dead when they created this. Then I press play and I'm like, oh, there he is.
They definitely didn't know he was dead. He didn't know he was dead.
Oh,
although,
and actually, it took a little bit of like, oh, it's so touching that they're like, oh, we did this in the Orson Welles style, so we have to, acknowledge his passing. And I'm like, oh no, they also had to acknowledge his passing because people were about to see him. And they're, yes, we know he's dead, but we're going to show him anyway.
Yeah, no, there's definitely subtext there. Tom, can I just say what a delight these little peaks outside of, like, Moonlighting is especially fun so far because, I guess in the same way that Miami Vice was, but like Miami Vice was going for a movie level production. So the fact that it was shot on film, you could tell they have film-like habits across the board. Moonlighting knows it's not trying to be a movie, but they are shooting it on film. Tom, they very clearly did not anticipate high quality HD transfers of this film. At one point, it zooms in on the record player so well that I almost paused it and pulled out my Chat GPT asking for the history of the exact model number of Toshiba that was clearly on display.
I noted the Toshiba. I was like, oh, that's a Toshiba record player. Interesting.
Well, and very clearly that wasn't they thought nobody will be able to see this at home on a television, and they were right. Yeah. But specifically, very clearly, we have an aging, unhealthy Orson Welles who very clearly was doing a favor and also is very, very clearly trying to keep from just reading the cue cards off to the side as his eyes keep darting off, and occasionally a line is short enough or simple enough that he can give his full attention to the camera for a good 3 to 5 seconds.
Nothing is wrong with your set. That's an Outer Limits reference, if any of you didn't get it.
Now, having said all of that, that was all I'm saying is that was interesting. I do not want to bag on any of that. It's just this show is showing up without any of its television haze around it, and I am so here for it. And we got the iconic opening to Moonlighting. None of us remembered that the pilot opening, it was super sparse or super spare.
Yeah,
I did think it was really kind of oddly plain, but I did.
It's pretty typical of this era for the pilot to not have the real open, and you don't get the proper open till the second episode. And I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah,
but the moment that theme song came on, the moment those slow pans of LA nightlife showed up, it's like, oh, that's right, I forgot. This is Moonlighting.
Yeah, and I said this a little bit when we talked about the first episode, but this informed me as a teenager what city life was like. Like, this is what it's like in the big city. And for me, the big city was St. Louis, but I also knew that I was watching New York, as I wrongly thought at the time, even though I was definitely watching Los Angeles. And it's so clear that we're watching Los Angeles.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the photo montage in the opening credit sequence doesn't read as LA. It's like they're trying to portray a vibrant city-like nightlife that LA just did not have back then. And
I mean, I'm sure it had it, but in narrow focus, right? Not in the way that they were implying. And I think they were trying to be like, this could be any city in America. It could be New York or Philadelphia or Los Angeles. Yeah, there is an odd juxtaposition of what LA was actually like compared to that. But I don't know. I think you liked this episode a lot.
Loved it.
Whereas I liked this episode 35 years ago.
Oh, sorry. You know, and actually, this is where my qualifications end, because when it started playing, I was like, oh my God, this is the one episode of Moonlighting that I had watched all of when I was a kid. And I remember thinking, well, that's pretty neat, because it is one of my favorite tropes. And I wonder how much crossover this is that made me a magician. Is I love hearing multiple versions of the same story, because you see, perspectives leak out and biases and all that stuff. And any of these stories where it's like, everyone takes turns telling it and they're all different. In this case, it's the bias of the victim or whatever. But it was astonishing because I could clearly remember the songs that Sybil Shepherd sang, Blue Moon, and the one where she's the helpless ingenue led astray.
I told you I love you, now get out.
Exactly, yeah. That would have been, 87-ish, I guess? 85, 4?
This first aired October 15th, 1985.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it would have been just before I moved to Norway. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I liked this more 35 years ago than I did today. Mm-hmm. I liked it more by the end than I did early on. I wrote in my notes, at least at first, this is relying heavily on the novelty and nostalgia people will have of it being black and white. And I think that's why I liked it 35 years ago, is like, ooh, nobody does this. Like, why are they showing it in black and white? And you get Orson Welles to go up, they're taking the bold risk of being in black and white. And I totally dug that, right? Because I thought that was really cool. We've had like an entire movie win an Oscar for basically being a good story told, but shot in black and white since then. Doing black and white versions has now become a trope. And so I thought the club should be called the Tropicana the first time through the story, because I'm like, this story has nothing interesting about it. They are just throwing the tropes. And I think that was intentional, because I think they thought, well, we don't need to do anything different.
Oh, you know what?
The first time through, people want to see those tropes because they never see them anymore. And then the second time through, we can make it more interesting, which they did.
So that makes me think that the Orson Welles intro played on multiple levels, because they probably were not super heavily focus group testing all of this stuff, but probably enough where it was getting here. To be honest, this could be context matters so much. It would shock me not at all if they showed this as it was and it tested poorly. And people are like, why? Well, it just seems so cheap and obvious, and obviously this and obviously that. And all those things that they hate, because very oftentimes when we hate a thing with just the right context twist, all of a sudden they become the things we love. And maybe by pretending to call out the black and ooh, I don't know if you're ready for black and white. Really, what I'm doing is I'm priming you to understand that we're playing with genres, but I must not say that out loud. Instead, you figured it out. You're so smart, viewer.
It's just as likely that it wasn't a focus group, but an exec with good instincts who was like, you can't just throw this at people. They're going to be like, why is it in black and white? Somebody's going to come out from the kitchen and they're going to be like, why is this in black and white? Is my TV broken?
Yeah,
you need to give them an intro.
TV.
Yeah.
And I guess mid-'80s, there were enough especially like kitchen, Moonlighting was good kitchen watching. If you had a TV in your kitchen, it was like 50-50 in the mid 80s that it had color.
Oh, in 1985, the TV in my bedroom was my dad's old black and white TV. Right?
Same year.
So
same year, same
if
thing.
I had been watching this in the bedroom, which I remember I was not, but if I had been, I would have been like, the whole thing's in black and white. So there you go. You know, I did think they got a little more interesting as they went along. I feel like the second story leaned into the humor better, which is what you expect from Moonlighting. And I think they were playing it safe to prime you by being all nostalgic the first time. Amos, what did you think?
First of all, we didn't get our first color TV until 1992. So everything was black and white.
Black and white. Yeah.
I did not like the first episode of this show. I also didn't like The Outer Limits, although my favorite one was the one that was film noir. This episode, I loved it.
Nice.
Oh, yay.
Oh my gosh. The throwback, the cheesy storyline, like I took it for everything that it was. It's not even good TV, but I loved watching it. It was so fun. I love the difference between the storylines. I love the campiness that the second part of it had. And I think maybe because it was split in two distinct sections and I wasn't watching the same show for an hour waiting for anything to happen. I was watching two separate 30-minute vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helped with it.
And you basically have three stories because you have the color stuff that happens around it is kind of a smaller third story.
Right.
Well,
and having a couple that I don't care about argue and then not really argue is one of my favorite tropes. So...
Well, and that was good that it kind of tapped into the larger meta argument about like at what point, do you view everything from the lens like does sexism swing both ways? And I thought that was interesting. So that was the one thing I felt truly robbed that I didn't get to experience was what was the resolution of the in color story? Yeah,
and there is none, right? Like, They basically at the end he wakes up, and if you recall from 35 years ago, the guy did it in both cases.
Oh,
but in the first case, he was the one who killed him and then made her go along, whereas in the second one, she was the one who manipulated him into killing him and then did the cover up. So they storm into at the end of in the ending color scene, they storm into their office and they get on the phone and carry on the rest of their argument and call each other sexist and hang up. And that's the end.
Those two, some things never change.
Yep. I put that I don't think if we watched every episode of Moonlighting that this would be my favorite episode, because going from the first episode to this one, I could tell they had hit their stride by now. The banter that we get in the car, I'm like, that's what I remember from Moonlighting. The fast-paced banter. And I felt robbed that we went to a gimmick and we got that banter, but it was in a genre versus more of the color stuff. I wanted more of that. And I know our next episode's going to be the worst. So I'm like, is that one going to have good banter in it? Or I don't know.
And during Bruce Willis's part, the second vignette, I almost expected him to say, "Yeah, she," like he really camped it up. And Tom, before the emails come in, they actually finished up in the office. The phone call was right before they went to sleep. They finished up in the office because the last thing you see is Sybil Shepherd's face, and she's looking at Bruce as he's like exiting the doorway, and the freeze frame is on her face, and she's like, "He's being a jerk."
No, they call each other from their offices. No.
That's I did see that. That was right before they fall asleep.
Yep.
In the office.
Yes.
No. Oh wait, they call each other. No, they call each other at home. Yeah.
They call each other at home.
Yeah.
But I could have sworn they stormed into their offices and then called each other. But maybe I'm Mandelaing myself, I'm sure.
Well, people can correct one or both of us at cordkillers@gmail.com.
But they can't correct me. Can't correct somebody who says he doesn't know.
No, they can. They'll just be wrong. Yes, you do know, Brian.
You do
like,
know.
no, I don't.
You saw it 35 years ago.
So you do know.
Now, I guess 40 years ago now. Holy cow.
Yeah, 40
years.
Yeah, 1985, right? Yeah, 40 years. So there, you can correct us.
All right.
I
I
wonder,
stand corrected.
Is this Orson Welles' last appearance on TV? Like last original appearance?
I would imagine. Well, certainly not his last appearance on TV because of clips and things, but this would be the last thing he recorded for television,
right?
Possibly. Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I wonder if that helps aid the ratings on this one, if that's a factor at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder
if
it
might have, because
I'll tell you what,
it was just a few days before, so.
Yeah.
I like your executive pitch, Tom, because if somebody was like, we got to do something, what can we do? Well, I don't know. It's kind of old timey. Or is Orson's around? We're having lunch next Tuesday. I bet I could get him to flip it around in 3 minutes. It's not like anyone will notice 40 years from now. And then 40 years from now, I noticed.
So they do go into the office, and then they have the conversation without talking. It's all inner monologue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of like a phone call with yourself.
The phone call that I was remembering is before the first story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they storm into the office before we see the first story and get on the phone and talk to each other. Then later that night, they call each other from home after we've seen the first story. But you're right. At the end, they're in the office and they're just staring at each other. They're not opening their mouths. They're having their inner monologues talk to each other, which is pretty funny too. All right. Now you don't have to send us emails, but go ahead. It's fine.
Well, they probably already have.
Yeah. Yeah, too late. Already sent. I think this puts the full experience to an interesting test. It's not as much of a factor for you two because you loved this so much, but I don't know if we'll get a quintessential Moonlighting episode because the first one's all set up. This one is a gimmick. You may love the gimmick, but it's not a typical episode. It's up to the worst episode to carry the banner of being a typical Moonlighting episode because the finale will be the finale and they'll say goodbye.
Yeah. But we have encountered this problem before within the last year with The Shield. Because The Shield, the ultimate episode was the last episode, so we watched the second to last, which was the second highest one. But those were special because the pilot and the last two both are all of the same story. And so in the case of The Shield, I actually felt like the lowest rated episode was a fair representation of classic procedural, similar to the lowest rated episode of The West Wing was lowest rated because it wasn't about the main characters on there. They did a standalone thing that we thought played quite well. So to be honest, I'm fairly optimistic about this one.
Plus it's called The Straight Poop.
Rona Barrett offers an anthology of Maddie and David's ups and downs at the Blue Moon Detective Agency. Sounds like a clip show to me.
This is also not the first time we've seen this, and a clip show ends up working out quite
in the full experience pretty well.
People who want to get the full experience. This may be another resounding success. I'm so interested.
Yeah, me too. So that will be our next discussion. The Straight Poop. First airing January 6, 1987, season 3, episode 9.
A holiday break.
Stay tuned for that. All right. Thank you for supporting us at patreon.com/Cordkillers. If you are a patron, you get these episodes before other people, so make sure to do that. And you get to weigh in on which one we decide, partly by just listening to us talk about it on After Talk. So whatever our next watch will be is usually hashed out on After Talk based on your feedback. So become a patron right now if you haven't already. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. And we'll be back with The Straight Poop next time. Talk to you then.